Listen to me. Everybody in this room has the same 24 hours. The question is, what are you doing with yours? Some of you are busy, but you're not productive. You're scrolling, you're talking, you're dreaming, but you're not executing. Productivity is not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things with focus, discipline, and urgency. And today, I'm going to show you how to stop wasting time, how to cut the excuses, and how to finally become productive in life, so you can take your dream from imagination to reality. Let's go, we underestimate the value of time because we think we have an unlimited supply of it. That illusion is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. If you calculate, the average lifespan gives you somewhere around 4,000 weeks. That's all, 4,000. And each one that passes is gone forever. So the first step toward productivity is recognizing that every hour you waste is an hour subtracted from that finite number. That realization should sober you up. It should force you to see time not as something you casually spend, but as the single most valuable resource you'll ever possess. Money, possessions, even relationships, they can all be regained or rebuilt in some way. But time cannot be replenished. Once gone, it's gone. People often say, I'll get serious tomorrow, but tomorrow doesn't exist in any real sense. It's a concept, a promise you keep making to yourself that rarely arrives. What you have is today. And the way you treat today is the clearest predictor of what your future will look like. If you fill it with distractions, you're programming your future self to live a distracted life. If you fill it with purposeful work, you're building the kind of life that actually has structure, meaning, and direction. Psychologically, what happens when you waste time is deeper than procrastination. It's a kind of self-betrayal. You're essentially saying to yourself, I don't believe my future matters enough to invest in it. And the more you repeat that pattern, the more you diminish your own sense of agency. On the other hand, when you discipline yourself to use time wisely, even in small increments, you build self-respect. You start to trust yourself. That trust will compound into real confidence and long-term achievement. So the question you must ask is simple. What are you doing with your hours? Not what you wish you were doing, not what you tell others you're doing, but what you are actually doing in the minutes that make up your day. The truth is, if you can't govern your time, you can't govern your life. Remember this, every wasted moment is a debt your future self will have to pay, and every invested moment is a gift your future self will thank you for. Choose wisely. One of the most overlooked elements of productivity isn't just time management, it's meaning. You can manage your hours with military precision, but if you don't know why you're doing it, you'll collapse under the weight of routine. The truth is, human beings are not built to function purely on discipline. We need a vision that gives structure and purpose to our lives, something that makes the struggle worthwhile. Without it, the discipline eventually erodes, because there's nothing animating it from within. When you wake up in the morning and you have a vision for your life that compels you, you don't need an alarm clock, you're already restless with anticipation. That's because the mind requires an aim. Psychologically, without a clear aim, the brain scatters its energy across trivial pursuits, and you end up mistaking business for progress. But when you define a vision, something concrete, something that stretches you beyond who you are right now, it acts like a gravitational center. It pulls your actions into alignment. Suddenly, what you say yes to and what you say no to becomes clearer. That clarity is what produces focus, and focus is the foundation of real productivity. But vision is not something you invent casually. It demands reflection. You need to ask, what kind of person do I want to become? What kind of life would I be proud to live? These are not easy questions because they confront you with responsibility. The moment you articulate a vision, you simultaneously admit that your current state is insufficient. That recognition can be painful, but it's also the beginning of growth. Philosophically, vision transforms chaos into order. Life without vision is fragmented, filled with distractions that masquerade as opportunities. Life with vision, however, is organized around meaning. You no longer wander aimlessly, you move deliberately. And that deliberate movement is what compounds into progress over months and years. So don't just aim for productivity, aim for a life so compelling that productivity becomes a natural byproduct. Craft a vision that shakes you awake, that demands something from you, and that refuses to let you settle for mediocrity. Because in the end, without vision, you'll live reactively. With vision, you'll live intentionally. Motivation is often treated as the fuel of productivity, but it's unreliable. It comes and goes, rising when circumstances are favorable and collapsing the moment adversity appears. If you depend on motivation, your life will be a roller coaster of inconsistent effort. Discipline, on the other hand, is what steadies the course. Discipline is the act of structuring your behavior around principles, not feelings. And that's critical because feelings are fickle, but principles endure. Think about it psychologically. If you only act when you feel inspired, you've surrendered control of your future to the ebb and flow of your emotional state. That is a form of chaos. Discipline is the antidote. It's the conscious decision to align your actions with your highest goals, regardless of whether you feel like it. And that alignment is what builds competence, resilience, and ultimately confidence. Competence doesn't emerge from bursts of enthusiasm. It emerges from repeated, consistent action over long stretches of time. There's a philosophical dimension to this as well. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you aspire to become. When you sacrifice comfort in the present for the sake of a greater future, you're making a deeply moral choice. You're saying that your potential matters more than your immediate gratification. That kind of choice shapes character, and character in turn shapes destiny. It's worth noting that discipline doesn't eliminate struggle, it redefines it. You still experience difficulty, fatigue, even boredom. But instead of interpreting those states as reason to quit, discipline teaches you to see them as necessary steps in the process. Each time you persist through resistance, you're training yourself to act independently of circumstance. And that independence is freedom. Because if your actions are dictated only by how you feel, you're a slave to emotion. But if your actions are guided by discipline, you become the master of your own trajectory. So while motivation can ignite a spark, it's discipline that keeps the fire burning when the winds of life threaten to put it out. Don't just chase moments of inspiration, build habits that make progress inevitable. If you want to be productive, you need to recognize that your attention is one of the most valuable assets you have. Where your attention goes, your life follows. And yet, most people squander it on distractions that in the moment feel harmless, but over time accumulate into an existence of mediocrity. Social media, gossip, endless entertainment. These are not trivial diversions. They are forces that fragment your focus and diminish your capacity to build something meaningful. There's a psychological principle at play here. The human mind has a limited capacity for focus. When you allow that capacity to be consumed by constant notifications, trivial conversations, or superficial tasks, you're depleting the very resource required for deep, productive work. It's not simply that you lose time, you weaken your ability to sustain concentration when it matters most. And in a world that's becoming noisier by the day, the ability to concentrate is not just a skill, it's a competitive advantage. Philosophically, distractions are not neutral. They represent a refusal to confront the weight of your own potential. It is far easier to scroll endlessly or to numb yourself with meaningless chatter than it is to face the responsibility of building a life of purpose. And every time you choose distraction over focus, you're essentially voting against your future self. Eliminating distractions is not about deprivation, it's about liberation. When you cut away the noise, you create space for clarity. You begin to hear your own thoughts, to identify your true priorities, to act with deliberate intention. Productivity emerges not from doing more, but from doing less of what doesn't matter. By saying no to distractions, you create the possibility of saying yes to the things that will actually transform your life. The challenge is that distractions are seductive. They promise comfort and immediate reward, while meaningful work is often difficult and delayed in its payoff. But the deeper truth is that the life you want will not be built in comfort. It will be built in focus. And focus demands sacrifice. So here's the choice before you fill your days with noise or silence the noise and build something that lasts. One of the greatest errors people make in life is assuming that they have unlimited time. They delay action under the illusion that tomorrow will somehow be a better day to begin. But tomorrow is a concept, not a reality. What exists is today, this moment, this hour, this opportunity. And the difference between those who succeed and those who don't often comes down to one factor: urgency. Urgency does not mean panic. It means recognizing the weight of the present and treating it as irreplaceable. Psychologically, urgency forces you to confront the cost of delay. Every time you postpone meaningful action, you reinforce a habit of procrastination, and that habit compounds. It becomes easier to delay again, and soon a week has passed, then a month, then years. Productivity doesn't collapse in one dramatic failure. It erodes quietly through repeated hesitation. From a philosophical perspective, urgency is an acknowledgement of mortality. You are finite. The projects you dream of, the goals you imagine, the person you hope to become, all of them are contingent upon action taken now. If you live as though you have infinite time, you betray the truth of your own existence. To act with urgency is to respect the fact that life is brief, and that meaning is extracted only when you fully inhabit the present. Urgency also clarifies priorities. When you adopt the mindset that today matters more than tomorrow, you begin to sift through what is essential and what is trivial. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You stop telling yourself that you need more preparation or that you'll start once you feel ready. Readiness is rarely given. It is earned through action. And action, taken consistently with urgency, builds momentum. Momentum is what transforms a single step into a sustained journey. So ask yourself, what are you postponing that you know you should begin today? What conversation, what project, what discipline are you deferring into a future that may never come? Stop waiting. Start moving. Because in the end, it is not the years of your life that define your legacy. It is the moments you acted with urgency. Human beings are profoundly social creatures. Whether you recognize it or not, you are shaped by the people you spend the most time with. Their values seep into your thinking, their habits influence your behavior, and their expectations either elevate or diminish your own. Psychologically, this is unavoidable. We are wired to mirror and absorb the attitudes of those around us. That means if you surround yourself with individuals who are lazy, cynical, or aimless, you will gradually drift in that direction, even if you don't consciously intend to. Now, this isn't just about avoiding bad company. It's about deliberately seeking out environments and relationships that challenge you to grow. When you are in the presence of people who strive for excellence, who take responsibility seriously, who push themselves to achieve something awakens in you, you begin to hold yourself to a higher standard because mediocrity feels unacceptable in their company. That pressure, if you lean into it, becomes a catalyst for your own productivity. Philosophically, who you associate with is not a trivial matter. It is an ethical decision because it reflects the kind of life you are choosing to build. If you choose companions who drag you into distraction and stagnation, you're participating in your own decline. But if you choose companions who inspire discipline, urgency, and vision, you're aligning yourself with the upward path. Life is too complex and too filled with obstacles to walk alone. The people you surround yourself with are either allies in your pursuit of meaning or obstacles to it. This is why you need to be intentional about your circle. Ask yourself, are the people around me invested in their own growth? Do they push me to be better? Or do they enable my worst tendencies? That question can be uncomfortable because it might force you to distance yourself from relationships that are familiar but destructive. Yet the discomfort is necessary. Your environment is not neutral. It is shaping you at this very moment. So take control of it. Seek out people who embody the discipline, urgency, and vision you want for yourself. And in return, become that kind of person for others. In the end, productivity is not merely about getting more things done. It is about orienting your life toward meaning, structure, and responsibility. It begins by valuing your time, because every moment wasted is a future sacrificed. It deepens when you create a vision so compelling that it calls you forward with urgency. It is sustained not by fleeting motivation, but by the steady weight of discipline. It requires that you strip away the noise, silence distractions, and focus on what truly matters. It demands immediate action, because tomorrow is uncertain and today is all you have, and it is shaped profoundly by the people you choose to walk beside, because their direction will inevitably influence your own. Productivity, then, is not a technique, it is a way of being. It is the deliberate choice to live intentionally rather than passively, to act rather than delay, to rise rather than drift. And if you embrace that choice consistently, you will not only become productive, you will become the kind of person capable of building a life that matters.